So, with our brand new level 1 key card, we should be able to explore the rest of this basement level. But as there was a bit of fog outside, I think it might be prudent to check out the monitors and see what's lying in store for us. Now, from the monitors, we can see that the rest of the floor is pretty much split up into 3 areas, and we'll just go ahead and start working our way down the monitors. The fishery control room is pretty self-explanatory. It's got some controls for the nearby fishery. But more importantly than that, we can already see on the far wall there some ventilation controls. That definitely will be handy because I get the feeling that there is going to be some fog in the fishery itself. In addition to that, there are some controls for the fishery. And in the secondary camera, while it doesn't seem like there is too much else to the room, it does seem like this poster is kind of drawing our eye, though. Yeah, yet again, from the camera's point of view, we can't really make out what's on the poster. Still, we'll definitely be heading to the control room soon enough. The main problem is going to be the fishery itself. Because it is very much encased in a layer of deadly fog. And it's got some weird sounds going on, and yeah, we have a very, very aggressive ghost waiting in the wings. In fact, he can't stop himself from attacking that camera. Yeah, the more we start to look around the fishery, the more questions just seem to arise, like, well, why is this particular ghost taking a bit of a dip? Well, we could switch to another camera to hopefully get a better view of the fishery. But I seem we've caught the attention yet again of that very aggressive ghost. Yeah, it seems that any motions we make with the camera will immediately get his attention. Well, at least in the case of camera 1 and camera 3. So that does make looking around in this general area a little bit difficult. Though they do throw you a little bit of a bone by starting camera 2 extremely zoomed into this one pool because it does allow you to see something at the bottom of the pool. Definitely want to keep that in mind. Though the larger problem is how we're going to be able to get past that ghost at the intersection there and down to the control room. Next up is the food storage warehouse. Yet again, another very fog-laden area with a strange bit of knocking going on in the background. Why? Yeah, by switching the camera, we can see that seems like a ghost is trying to pound its way into something. And to make matters worse, that ghost is right in front of what is definitely some ventilation controls hidden behind some boxes. And I have no doubt that he's not going to be too happy if we try to make our way to those controls. To make matters worse, it looks like it's pretty much a one-way trip to make our way around the room. Kind of looks like there's a door blocking our way.
Why?
But our final set of rooms is going to be over in the... Actually, I almost missed something. It's a bit hard to tell, but if you zoom in on the conveyor belt, you will start to notice a little bit of glowiness.
This is all the food we have left. I see. Don't mention this to anyone. We'll still mine as planned. Director, our company will... This facility... No, I don't think so. Our company should know the value of the stone. It'll be all right, but only if I have that stone. Haven't you been listening to everyone? Since we started using the red stone, so many people... Silence! Director! The stone saved this facility and brought success with it. That stone granted my wish. That gives me hope. Don't worry. Everything will be all right. Why doesn't this open?
So if there were any remaining questions about whether or not the aforementioned stone had any connection with the stone from the previous Echo Knights, and that discussion there between the director and what I think is that painting android pretty much cements that fact that it indeed is that evil stone we've had to deal with in the past. But the final area, well, at least on this basement level, is the gravity, training area. See, in the control room, there's initially not that much to it, but looks like there was a little bit of a commotion at the controls. So there's an odd item on the ground. But more importantly is this, recording on the keyboard. Yeah, it seems there was a feline on the controls there. I guess it explains the collar on the ground. And I get the feeling that, as with most cats on a keyboard, it might have touched a few keys. That means that it probably affected something in the gravity training room. Though with our available cameras, there's not too much we can initially see. But it does sound like we can hear someone. Still, the only other thing of interest on the camera right now is a very easily missed recording on the ground. Just a very thin sliver. So I guess something managed to roll underneath the seating there. But with our new knowledge of each of the three areas, I think we can actually start to explore each one of them, probably starting with the food storage warehouse, as that is the closest one nearby. The problem is, just how are we going to deal with the ghost in that room? Yeah, we can hear that telltale knocking. But yeah, even on closer inspection, seems like the shortest route is going to be blocked off to us by this small crate and this door that we won't be able to shut from this side. Now, there really isn't that much else to the room, but there are a number of crates, and some of them we can actually do a little bit of interacting with. Yeah, the problem is, once you do interact with it, it does set off a little bit of an alarm, and that's what you want to use to kind of direct the ghost off to one side, because yeah, you pretty much have to get its attention yet again to get to the ventilation.
ID verified. Ventilation system activated.
And as far as I've been able to tell, there's no better way to really approach this situation. I guess if things come to the worst possible scenario, you hopefully do have some syringes to reset your adrenaline. But yeah, outside of that ghost with his little can, it seems like, much like the android said, there was a bit of a food shortage, and pretty much every crate in here is completely empty. It does look like there is a little can on the conveyor belt, though. It's just we can't get around this box or this side of the conveyor belt to get to it. But you might have noticed on the opposing side of the machinery here, there was a lit up button. And with that, we can start the conveyor belt. And gain access to that small can on the belt. Also on the side, we can kind of shut the door temporarily, allowing us easy access. And the small can turns out to be a canned drink of supplement water, though it is past its expiration date, so we're not going to be inhibiting it.
This won't open. Can you give me a hand? This is a caregiver, right? I've got to give her something to eat. My wife is very weak. She's going to die if she doesn't eat something soon.
So indeed, this ghost was trying to open up a can, but we currently don't have any means to open that can. So this is just going to have to be something that we are going to head back to, but at least the killer fog is cleared out in this area. And we also learn that this ghost has a connection with that injured female ghost that we saw at the end of that hallway in the previous video. For now, though, it's time to head on to our next kind of difficult hurdle. That's going to be down in the fishery. Now, the first thing we want to do is just go ahead and unlock the door here. But we don't want to head in just yet.
Access granted.
It would pretty much be a death sentence if we try to make our way around that ghost. So we are going to need some means to distract it because, as we already saw from the cameras, it is pretty sensitive to movement. So it would be on us like stink on shit. So my plan here is to maybe use the cameras as a means of a distraction. Now, technically, you could probably use either camera 1 or 3. I think either will pretty much get you the end result you're looking for. The one real thing to keep in mind is that I think once he has set his attention on the moving camera, you can pretty much start to run, but I find it's usually better to at least make sure he has his attention on that camera before you make your mad bolt over to the fishery, because you do not have a lot of time before he loses interest in strangling that camera. Now, I think you might be able to give yourself a little bit of extra time if you just walk forward, but even running should give you ample amounts of time to make your way down to the control room here. And now that we have safely avoided that ghost, we can now vent out that deadly fog and make the fishery a little bit safer for us.
ID verified. Ventilation system activated.
Now we should be able to safely go around the fishery. But since we are in the control room, well, we can't get a clear view of it because the shutters are closed. And I don't believe there's any way to open them, but yeah, there was that one ghost that was just kind of floating around in the water, and I feel like we should help him. The good thing is, there are some tank controls right here.
Please enter the password.
But we haven't currently gotten any clues about a password for the tank controls. Thing is that, well, as with some people, they do kind of pick their passwords from just nearby things in the room. And well, we do have this poster here that's just full of different types of fish. Now, while it might seem a bit imposing, what with all these different fish, that you might have to make your best guess, but you do have to keep in mind that you are limited to 5 letters, and there is only one particular fish on the list that even only has those particular 5 letters. So, yeah, we're just going to have to enter in DACE and hope that's the right password.
Please enter the password. Safety valve released.
Not a terribly difficult puzzle, but still a little bit interesting. Also, you might notice that the aggressive ghost out here is no longer present, and that's because that is actually the ghost we ran into whenever we were heading towards the elevator that just kind of moves around the facility with the fog. Yeah, before we can meet that floating pool ghost, we are going to have to drain the water. Definitely wouldn't work to our benefit to just stumble into the pool and just end up floating around with him. So with the water transferred, we can now head inside. And while we can't initially see him,
Captain, please save me.
yeah, he is definitely still down there somewhere in the pool. Yeah, this particular ghost is pretty bashful and pretty cowardly, so he is cowering way in the back here.
Captain, please do something, Captain. Someone will find me. I was hiding. Why is all the water gone? The amulet. I've lost it. A monster will... I can't do it anymore. Since the captain's not coming with me, I'm gonna get away. Get over here. They're gonna kill me. This accident was not our fault. If I don't get away, that fog...
So we're not able to get too much from this ghost, but the one interesting piece of new information was some mention of an accident. Could be that that accident might have had some connection with the red stone and possibly the fog, but yeah, until we can placate this scared ghost, we probably can't get any more information out of him. So, the good thing is we already saw exactly where that amulet was. And it should have floated up with the rest of the water here, but in actuality, there is a bit of grating that's at the bottom of the pool, and it was kind of clogging up the amulet from floating up to the top. But yeah, with the raised platform now at the top, we can grab this very, very interesting looking amulet. Almost has a bit of a Native American feel to it, though there isn't much more of a description or anything interesting regarding flavor text. But who knows, maybe we can meet the captain, and I don't know, maybe he'll have a interesting backstory of his own. But for right now, let's go ahead and help out this poor ghost, and let's just avoid this ladder for right now.
Captain, please save me.
And see if we can't get some additional information.
This is the captain's amulet. Thank you. I'll be all right as long as I have this. Everything will be okay.
Sadly, his soul is released before we can get anything more out of him, but it wasn't a fruitless endeavor, because we did manage to score a little bit of chocolate. Now, this isn't a health item or anything like that. It is a key story item, so we're just going to be holding on to that for right now. And, well, we have already managed to clear out 2 out of the 3 areas that were left to us, so we now just have to make the long trek to the opposing end of the floor and, well, see what was going on inside the gravity training room. Still, we do have quite a bit of questions floating around in the air, such as how the director got the stone, what Claudia had to do with any of it. And even more curious is this strange, well, docile specter here that doesn't seem to want to talk to us. Yeah, the only thing we can get from this red-headed spaceman is that he does mention Nikolai, so I don't know, maybe he was a member of Nikolai's research team. Still, wherever his journey is taking him, we won't be able to follow. So, I guess for right now, we'll just keep on pressing forward and check out the gravity training area.
Access granted. Releasing lock.
So, right off the bat, we already know that there is something waiting for us underneath the chair here. And we can kind of see it poking out, but we can also just lift up the chair to find another coin-like object, which indeed is another small chocolate coin. But we also have access to two small windows where we can have a small look inside the gravity training room itself. It seems like the main door is currently locked to us. So yeah, whatever secrets are waiting in store for us in that room, well, we might be able to unlock via the control room. Also, since we are in the control room, we should be able to check out what this collar is. And what's especially interesting is the small little icon on it seems to be a bit of a key. So that will be useful in the future. But for right now, let's see what mischief that cat did. So you might have a lot of questions, physics-based, about how a ghost could be affected by zero gravity or gravity at all.
Zero gravity disengaged.
Whoa! Ouch! What the?
And sadly, as far as I can tell, there's no real in-world explanation. It's just merely set up for a little bit of comedy. Yeah, now that we have set the gravity back to normal in the room, it has in turn unlocked the door for us so we can meet that floating phantasm.
What? Go away! So, you want some food, huh? Well, you're not getting any. This is my food. Mine! Hey, I've seen you before, haven't I? Oh, yeah. You were in the shuttle, huh? Yeah, you're, Richard, right? Richard Osmond? The lady you were with called you that. Yeah. I have a good memory. That's what my dad always says. Yeah, the lady's name was, Claudia, right? Yeah. I saw her when she was coming out of the shuttle. Then those strange things started chasing after me. Hey, if you happen to find some chocolate, don't eat it. I dropped it when I was running away from those things. So remember, that's my chocolate, so don't you dare eat it.
So this rude wraith is our first means of getting our character's full name, but more importantly, we may be able to apply something from his very good memory with some chocolate.
Ooh, my chocolate. Hey, you're not so bad, are you? Say, that lady you were with, Claudia, that's the name. I feel like I've seen you before. Wonder where. That was good. There should be some more left. Go find them.
So that seems to be putting us on the right track. Let's see what another piece of chocolate unlocks for us.
Wonder where I saw that lady. She was wearing a white dress. Where have I seen her? There should be one more. Hurry up and get it for me.
So a white dress. I wonder why Claudia would be wearing that. What's worse is that we don't have another piece of chocolate to give him, and I don't know where one could be. Thankfully, in pure comedic fashion, the missing gold coin is right under this ghostly glute. So we don't have to look too far to get our final clue.
I am full. I'm thirsty. I can't go to sleep. Isn't there anything to drink?
And we do run into one more slight inconvenience with this ghostly quest, but the good thing is we did manage to pick up that can of water.
You're not such a bad person after all. That was good. Oh, yeah. The young lady you were with. I believe she was headed to a hall-like place. I think I saw a sign there that said, work area or something. Yeah. Well then, have a good night.
And so, by fulfilling that final meal request, we not only get an idea of where Claudia could be, but we also get our next leveled key card. And on top of all of that, we do manage to find a very strange can opener, which, well, considering the other littered items around this general area, I can only assume that he was just hoarding all the food he could possibly get in here, and yeah, I don't assume he died of starvation. But since we do have a can opener, I know of someone who is in dire need of one. I can only hope that, well, we might be able to solve this ghost can-based conundrum, though, as you already saw, running a little bit low on battery power. But yeah, let's hand off this can opener.
This is... This is food. Ellie,
Man, that's gotta suck. Just a never-ending stream of bad luck for that guy. Still, I wonder what that can did have. It's a bit of disposable fuel for a little oven. And that does kind of remind me that in the previous video, I think in the vegetable plant control room, there was something that I think did have a bit of food, but I think it might have been missing a very key component. So let's go ahead and head back over to the vegetable plant control room. Because indeed there was this small burner on the table here that did have an emergency food ration. And it's not immediately obvious, but there is a little slot for some fuel. And that gives us exactly what that ghost was looking for his poor injured wife. Thing is, we don't really technically know where he is right now, but I get a feeling he probably headed back over to where his wife is. And yeah, you might remember when we first made our way down to this floor that, well, this one door here was blocked temporarily by some plant life. And the key reason that that plant is now out of the way is because that injured ghost made his way back in here.
if I could only find something for her to eat.
Yeah, I assume he had moved the plant in front of the door to hopefully protect his wife.
Thanks. I won't forget what you've done for me. She'll feel better if she eats this.
And with the food delivered, we should have another happy ending on our hands. But something seems a bit wrong.
I'm sorry. But she's still... Why? I don't know.
Yeah, it seems that the food wasn't the panacea that he was hoping for their relationship.
Excuse me. Did you find an earring? I seem to have lost it. It's very valuable to me. I have to have it. He's not easy to get along with, but...
Now, I don't believe we have stumbled upon any earrings as of just yet. But I get a feeling that in all our to-do to find that food, I think we might have just overlooked what was already right underneath our nose. And in fact, I think that the husband might have run into the exact same problems while he was trying to take care of his poor injured wife.
Good.
That's... I'm surprised you still have that.
I treasure this. It was the first present you bought me.
It's already been 10 years since... I'm sorry that I can't make you happy.
No, I'm very happy with you.
Please, stay with me, Allie.
Sweetie.
So, we are able to reunite that couple in the afterlife, and yeah, we don't get an immediate reward or anything like that, and that's because not every ghost in the game you actually had to free. Some of them are entirely optional, but I do want to make sure and free as many spirits as I can. Still, that is everything cleared out on this floor of the basement, and we do have a brand new key card and an idea of where we need to head to next, so I think for right now, we'll just go ahead and head into the elevator, and hopefully you will join me next time as we continue our chase after our missing fiancé up in the work area. See you then.